Hello, everyone. Welcome to Science Systems and Applications Incorporated, also known by our acronym SSAI's live podcast episode. I am your host, Jason Dietrich from the SSAI Communications Department. As we always say at SSAI, the future is grand, and we want to share with you what we are doing to ensure that happens. I just wanted to thank you all so much for listening in to our conversation today. If you are curious about what we've been up to, please make sure that you follow us on each of our social media platforms: LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, X, and our YouTube channel. Please also check out our website. We have job openings in a variety of different fields, and if you are passionate about science, exploration, and humankind, SSAI is the place for you. All the links for each of our social media handles will be provided right down below in the description of this video. Please check each of these links out, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, and engage with us via your questions about what SSAI is currently doing. All our managers, scientists, engineers, educators, and technicians are an important part of the SSAI community of rock stars. They are doing amazing work and contributing to many different initiatives, like at NASA, among many others, to help benefit humankind. We have Dustyn Strosnider, who is the NASA Goddard Space Flight Center PACE OCI Deputy Instrument Manager, Operations, as well as the NASA Goddard Space Flight Center PACE SPEXone and HARP-2 Instrument Manager. Dustyn, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to talk with me today. How are you doing today?
I'm well, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's a great honor to have you on. And I know you've been super busy with PACE over these last couple months and, couple of years. So, and as we say at SSAI, it's a great day at SSAI, right?
Absolutely. And it's 90 degrees outside, so we'll take it.
Absolutely. Well, it is definitely hot out today. So I think today it's good to be in the air conditioning and do a podcast, right? For those of you who might remember back when we did our first podcast episode and our second podcast episode on PACE, PACE stands for Plankton, Aerosol, Cloud, Ocean Ecosystem. This mission is responsible for helping collect data so that we can better enhance our understanding of Earth's global ocean color, its biogeochemistry and ecology, and the carbon cycle, aerosols, and clouds. PACE has a primary sensor called the Ocean Color Instrument, or OCI for short. It is a highly advanced optical spectrometer that will be used to measure properties of light over portions of the electromagnetic spectrum. Recently, a few weeks ago, on April 11th, 2024, the data from PACE was released live and made accessible to everyone. I was just blown away by that data when I saw it. And for those of you that might not have seen the data yet, please check out the links to this data right down below in the description of this video. We're very excited to hear your reactions. So now, Dustyn, I would like to ask you some questions in relation to your work that you have done with SSAI and the PACE mission. My first question is, can you please tell the audience about yourself and state your role associated with SSAI and the PACE mission that recently launched back in early February of this year?
Sure, Jason. So I joined SSAI in September of last year as the ESES 3, Electrical Systems Engineering Services 3. This is the third iteration of the contract, program manager. So in this role, I have the privilege of overseeing the 420 plus folks supporting efforts at Goddard Space Flight Center, but not limited to White Sands Flight Facility and Kennedy Space Center, to name a few. So at the time of my joining SSAI, we were very hot and heavy with wrapping up environmental testing at Goddard for PACE while working towards delivery and the subsequent commissioning of the PACE Observatory to Astrotech Space Operations Facility in Titusville, Florida, in preparation for our launch this past February of 2024.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible, Dustyn. And you're doing such impactful work through many different global organizations. I know something that caught my eye was when you mentioned the NASA Kennedy Space Center. Just as a side note, I actually went there last year, and I went there for a STEM space gala where they recognized women in STEM who were making such a positive impact in their communities. And I also got to tour with a former astronaut, which was so cool. So
NASA Disney down there at Kennedy Space Flight Center.
exactly, yes. Absolutely. It was just, it was beautiful. And I almost didn't want to leave because it was so warm. And then coming back up to 30 degrees in Maryland, I was like, it was hot, but I didn't want it to come back to that cold or that drastic temperature change. But
can't blame you.
So, but thank you so much, Dustyn, for introducing yourself and sharing your role at SSAI and your experiences with the PACE mission. My next question I wanted to ask you was, as Deputy Instrument Manager, navigating through the complexities of managing employees and overseeing the construction of the instrument during the COVID-19 pandemic must have presented some very unique challenges. Could you walk us through your strategies for effectively managing your team and ensuring the successful completion of the instrument amidst these unprecedented circumstances that we had?
Yeah, well, for starters, it was a huge team effort, right? It wasn't just my team. So back in 2020, we were in a very heavy design and build period, and COVID showed up. March 2020, we all thought we're just going to go home for about 2 weeks, and we'll come back. But come mid-April, our lives changed. Everybody's life changed. We set up shop in offices at home with no end of the pandemic in sight. But just because everything stopped around us didn't mean that our mission had to come to a halt. So our OCI leadership team began meeting every morning to touch base, not only to keep the pulse on our instrument development activities, but to personally check in on each other. So every day we're on the phone or we're on Teams, this newfound Teams, that we had to learn and come to love. So we had to get creative. We all did. And we built partnerships by thinking outside the box. Our team was able to procure and purchase hundreds and thousands of piece parts while functioning from our home offices. We spent the next 6 months trying to do what we could from home before the status at Goddard changed, and we were allowed to begin critical work back on center. So lots of planning, lots of preparation, lots of discussion about what we can do, what we can't do, how many people can be in a room, how many square feet of space, what's the PPE that you need. It was anywhere from safety glasses to visors to masks and gloves and everything across the board. So it wasn't fun, but we definitely learned a lot. There were a lot of challenges. And I guess about 2 years into that, we were finally back to some sort of normal and bringing those hundreds and thousands of piece parts back on center that we had stored at other companies across the Goddard community. So it was pretty crazy times.
Absolutely. Well, I think, Dustyn, we can all agree that it was just very unprecedented and, very stressful for everybody. And, I just want to thank you for highlighting how you managed your team during the stressful time of COVID. And, I actually started out as a teacher during the COVID-19 pandemic, which was very, very challenging to say the least, because if you tried to implement a certain policy or procedure in the classroom, then something could change. And, sometimes it could change the next day. Sometimes it could change, within the hour, or sometimes there was a change the next minute. We just didn't know what was going on. So
think about wrangling all those kids, and we had to wrangle all those adults. So
yeah, exactly. So yeah, and it was just despite the challenges we had, during the pandemic, I also saw some positives that came with that. And I like how you mentioned that you and your team did some out-of-the-box thinking. And really with COVID, it taught us to be innovative with our strategies and teaching. And better yet, no pun intended, it also taught us to pace ourselves. So where we just had to take, one day at a time, because you couldn't plan a few days, a week, a few weeks, or even a month ahead. You just had to stay in the present, slow down your thoughts as best you could, and just go with the flow. So
I don't think we had a lunch break for a couple of years there.
I don't believe so. I don't believe so. With all that was, going on, and, luckily I was able to have like lunch at my school that I was previously at, but it was just interesting how we had to take off our mask and then, put it back on. It was crazy. So, but thank you so much, Dustyn, for sharing about, again, the innovation that you and your team did during that very stressful time. So, my next question I wanted to ask you was, as part of the PACE mission, delivering state-of-the-art instruments like SPEXone and HARP2 was crucial, but undoubtedly challenging. And could you share some insights into the process of testing and delivering these instruments, particularly addressing any setbacks or failures encountered along the way, and how your team navigated through them to ensure the success of the mission?
Yeah, well, for starters, the SPEXone team had a much tougher time with this, right? The restrictions during the pandemic were affiliated with where they were coming from, right? They're coming to support PACE efforts from another country. So their travel included quarantine once they arrived to the U.S. Before they were even able to visit our center. So you're losing a week at a time there. Planning took much longer than originally anticipated for all of the activities, as we still didn't know when we were going back to work. So fortunately, the SPEXone team was able to complete their calibration efforts with the Glamour team in Building 33 and officially deliver their instrument. I believe it was the summer after COVID started. HARP2, on the other hand, was local and in Baltimore, but they had to deal with the university regulations during the pandemic as well. So it made everything slightly more difficult to achieve schedule milestones and complete necessary quality assurance inspections. So on top of that, HARP2, unfortunately, had to overcome multiple failures from a delamination issue to a catastrophic failure during their vibration test at Goddard. So they had a long road. Fortunately, the PACE mission was very supportive of getting the HARP2 instrument through testing, integration, and subsequently launch. Pretty amazingly enough, the UMBC team was able to recover from their catastrophic failure in 6 months to the day that it happened. They were able to go back to UMBC and take everything apart, reassess it, put everything back together, and be back on the vibe table 6 months to the day later. So that is a huge feat. Coming out on the heels of COVID, right? This was 2 years ago. So it was pretty amazing that they recovered so quickly. They were then able to complete their remaining calibration testing, the same testing that SPEXone did with the Glamour team in Building 33, and integrate to the spacecraft and then launch another one here 2 years to the day of that catastrophic failure. So how's that for a recovery story?
Wow, that's absolutely incredible, Dustyn.
Yeah.
Wow.
Kudos to both of those teams and the PACE team for being accommodating on our side.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Wow. That's just truly fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing those meaningful insights. And, Dustyn, the big thing that I got from hearing your response is, you're going to face setbacks and failures throughout a mission or whatever journey you are going on. And it's important that when you face setbacks, that's how you and your team grow and get better. You're getting better.
Right.
You're getting prepared to accomplish that task you want to accomplish. And most importantly, you're learning along the way. So, and, it's important too for everyone who is currently listening to this episode to hear that if you face a setback or a challenge, don't just give up. It's not the end. Right. So, just like what Dustyn was saying, you can provide some innovative and some out-of-the-box thinking, and you can really dig yourself out of the situation that you were in, as long as you think positive. That is definitely something that is key. Wouldn't you agree, Dustyn?
I would agree. I mean, we didn't expect anything to happen over these last 3 to 4 years, let alone on top of delivering instrumentation and launching.
Yeah. So. Exactly. Well, it was great to see the PACE mission launched. I know that everybody experienced some weather issues at first down in Florida for the launch, but I remember it was very early in the morning, like I think it was 1:30 a.m. Eastern time.
1:33. Yep.
1:33. Yeah, and I remember I was half asleep, but when I saw PACE launch, I was like, "Go PACE!" as I'm half asleep. So, but just seeing that, it just was very inspiring. And, with some of the data that has been released, we're really getting some better knowledge about planet Earth, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we really have changed the world
oh,
if you put
absolutely.
it into perspective. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you and all of the other SSAI employees who have contributed to the PACE mission are rock stars. All of you have done an incredible job. So, and you deserve the recognition for it. So, um, Dustyn, a final question I wanted to ask you was PACE, as we all very well know, is a groundbreaking mission in Earth observation. And it's responsible for diving into the intricate connections between oceanic and atmospheric processes. For aspiring individuals who are inspired by this mission and aspire to follow in your footsteps, what advice would you offer them as they embark on a journey to contribute meaningfully to such transformative endeavors in the field of Earth observation?
such a fancy question, Jason. I
Thanks.
just to piggyback on everything we've already talked about, you just can't give up. You can't lose sight, right, of the bigger picture. You're going to hit one obstacle and you're going to figure out how to get over it, through it, under it, and keep going. PACE had a long road to get where it is with budget cuts and other, pandemics and et cetera, things that have happened along the road. So you just got to look back and not give up and just keep looking forward.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's very well said. So I think for our next generation, it's definitely our responsibility to inspire these individuals to see all the great things that STEM offers. And, Dustyn, I remember when I first was introduced to STEM in middle school. I loved the visual aspect of it and the hands-on aspect, and I was so immediately hooked. Just because I was able to think visually, but then also test things out, learn from my mistakes, learn from, any failures. And that's why I'm in STEM today. So for those of you out there who are curious about opportunities, there are multiple different highways of opportunity that STEM offers. And we at SSAI promote diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility access to make everyone feel welcome and make everyone's voices heard. And I know for me, I am just incredibly grateful myself to be a member of SSAI. And I'm also grateful for the work that you are contributing to, Dustyn, especially with the PACE mission, in order to expand the amount of impact SSAI makes on various STEM initiatives. And Dustyn, again, I just wanted to thank you again so much for joining me today and taking time out of your very busy schedule to talk about your role at SSAI and your work for the PACE mission. You are truly a rock star manager who is really making an impact and difference globally, and everyone is going to benefit from this continued STEM work and outreach that you are doing. Please definitely keep us posted about any further data released from PACE, and we can't wait to highlight it.
Awesome. Well, my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
At SSAI, we believe the best way to obtain knowledge is to pass it on. So again, for those of you who are curious about what SSAI has been up to, please make sure that you follow us on each of our social media platforms: LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, X, and our brand new YouTube channel. Please also check out our website so you can stay up to date on many missions and initiatives like PACE that SSAI supports. We have job openings in a variety of different fields, and if you are passionate about science, exploration, and humankind, SSAI is the place for you. In addition, if you want to learn more about PACE and see the data that has been released so far, please check out the links in the video description below for more information. Also, be sure to engage with us via social media with your questions and comments about this podcast. We want to hear from you. Your voice and ideas matter. Thank you to those of you who have subscribed to our YouTube channel and follow us on our social media already. Please continue to like, share, comment, and subscribe to each of our social media platforms to see all the global STEM initiatives SSAI is involved in. Again, I'm your host, Jason Dietrich, SSAI Communications Department member, and thank you all so much for joining. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of the day, and please be on the lookout for our next podcast episode. Until next time, everyone, cheers.